10 years ago today, 1 decade, I was in the midst of my first lockdown at Ensign Intermediate School. I was 12 years old in fourth period pre-algebra class, and all of a sudden the intercom came on and the principal said that this is not a drill, we're in lockdown mode, and he had all the teachers run and lock the doors. So my teacher ran and locked her doors. We all went underneath our desks. One student couldn't keep quiet. The teacher had to tell him to zip it by actual quote, and because he said they kept on hearing like the helicopters and everything. Anyway, we stayed there for what seemed like a long time, and then there was a knock on the door. It was the person that worked there from the staff. The teacher opened the door, let her in, and she said that vulnerable explosives were found in room 26, which happened to be the detention room that day, or the room for disobedient students that day. And so that's ironic. And then I heard that there's a strange substance, like strange water bottle with battery and acid or so, either in that room and or the locker. There's a strange paper bag found in the student's locker. But we had to evacuate from, I believe it was room 37 to the gymnasium. And from there to the gymnasium, I must have been praying 100 times that day or so. When we got to the gymnasium, we waited there for a long time, and every now and then there was some announcements, some like updates on what happens. To make it worse, one of my friends sitting next to me leaned over, said, "I hope this isn't like Columbine." Thank you very much. I didn't need to hear that. I was already frantic in my mind as it was. Here I was at a school I couldn't escape with what I was told were vulnerable explosives, and I didn't know anything else. Finally, we all evacuated to the fields, and we were there for hours until around 2:35. At one point, everyone started running back to their classrooms because they thought it was over, and then they were like, "No, sit down, sit back down." So we had to wait a little bit more. The only thing that really nagged me was everyone complaining that they were hungry, because it was fourth period, it was right before lunch, and we couldn't have lunch that day. And I was sitting there in my mind, I was thinking, how in the universe could you possibly be hungry during a lockdown? But they were. And so we did get out 5 minutes early that day, 2:35. So that was my day 10 years ago. My first lockdown lasted 4 hours. The student who done it just happened to have been in a couple of my classes, at least one other, but probably a couple. So I knew of this 12-year-old that did it, a 7th grader, and he never came. The promise that day is that he'll never come back to that school again. And I've heard that he was in juvenile detention till he was 38, or for 38 years or something. But anyway, my second one was Good Friday the next year, same period, same class, but it only lasted 5 to 10 minutes about. I am not sure about the details. I've heard what happened, but I never found any evidence, so I rather not say what I heard it was. But it was March 21st, 2008, so that would be 10 years ago next year.